I've been doing more and more of these Fox body Mustangs here in my shop, and one of the issues is the weather stripping on these things. I've had a couple of weather stripping videos for these Fox bodies, and they had a whole different mindset on the Fox body Mustangs as far as how their weather stripping fits. And what they did was they applied the weather stripping more to the open body of the car rather than put it on the hatch or the trunk lid or even the doors. Not a bad idea, really. I mean, it certainly sealed well. It made for a real easy installation. The problem is that every time you go to put something in the back of your Mustang here, you're scraping along the weather strip here and tearing this up. The other issue is on these type of weather strips, you can see by this margin right here, is that it shrinks. I mean, who would believe that it would shrink that much over time, but they do shrink like that. So a company called Late Model Restoration supplied us with brand new weather stripping for the back of this car, and we're going to show you how to put that on. You need very little in the way of tools. You need a screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, or this little screw gun I have, and then a pair of tin snips, or something that will cut through a weather strip that has a metal reinforcement inside it. But first thing you'll do is you'll go around the interior trim panels, and you'll remove the screws that kind of hold them in. Now this is a little easier than the door ones that we had done in a previous video, because all you really need to do is loosen these up a bit. They don't really hold the weather strip on like you might think. They just kind of like crowd it a little bit. Now once you've loosened up all these interior moldings, it's basically just down to pulling the old weather strip off. See, the inside of this weather strip has a metal retainer in there that allows it to pinch or hold on to this pinch weld. So this is where they've welded two pieces of body panels together, and they've left this little ledge here to enable the weather strip to attach to it. Good idea. Just go around and pull it off. Okay. It's not a bad idea when you're doing something like this. Take note. A lot of times there's an inside and an outside to a weather strip. So take note of something like that before you just go pulling it off of there and throwing it on the floor and then figure it out, all right, well, which is the inside, which is the outside. Like I say, I've been dealing with late model restoration parts for a little while now, and everything they've sent me has been first class. The stuff fits really good. Now, yeah, just as I thought, there is an inside and an outside to this particular weather strip. You can see how this little ledge right here sits more to the inside of this rubber than to the outside. So that would tell me that it is definitely directional. So judging by the way this old weather strip came off, this little ledge goes towards the outer perimeter of it. So I'm going to start in the middle over here and work my way around and basically just snapping it into the pinch weld. Now this is going to be a little bit more difficult to do because it's brand new seal. Work your way all the way around. Try not to stretch it because it's going to shrink on its own. So there's no need to pull on it or try and stretch it around. Late model gives you more than enough weather strip here. At the end there we'll have to cut a little bit of a margin off, and you want to make sure you don't cut too much off. Tell you what, it looks nice. It gives this old Mustang a little bit of detail. See how nicely that just snaps in there? So that's the idea they had behind this. It makes for the assembly of the car that much quicker to do. And that's where the dollars and cents comes from when you're assembling an automobile. The faster you can put together, the more money you can make on the car. And, well, they're in the business to sell cars and make money, and this is part of the ways of doing it. Now, you see what I mean? They give you a little bit of extra weather strip there, and they do that on purpose. number one, so you got some more than you need. But number two, what you want to do is cut just a little bit more off than you would normally. In other words, don't cut it right and meet one another. Because if you remember, before I pulled this weather strip off, I showed you how it originally had shrunk. Well, if you put that side by side, it'll be good for a year or two, and then all of a sudden down the road it's going to start shrinking and you'll have a gap. So I usually go about 1 inch wide, about as wide as these scissors are here. Now you might ask yourself, well, how am I going to make that fit? Well, what I'll do is I'll kind of crowd it just a little bit. You can see the metal reinforcement inside this thing. Now what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll kind of push it inside the old or the new end that came there. Now I'll work it down. And eventually that little area gets pushed in pretty nicely. There. Now these two joints are really pushing against one another. Eventually they're going to shrink back, and as they do, there'll be plenty of room for it. Now the only thing you got left to do is just to start screwing the trim panels in place. This is one of the easier weather strips to put on. You know, the early Mustangs, they glued the weather strips to the hatches and to the trunk lids, and that's a real time-consuming thing. You usually have to take the trunk lid off the car to do something like that, and more time involved in it. All right, well that was fast and that was easy. So keep an eye out for the rest of my videos on this series as far as weather stripping goes. Because late model restorations, they're sending me all sorts of stuff for these Fox body cars, and we're going to continue this series.